Since 2010, the UK economy has faced not one, but three massive external shocks, dealing with the consequences of the financial crisis, a once-in-a-century pandemic, and a 1970s-style energy shock.
Chancellor Jeremy Hunt again deliberately avoiding Brexit in his list of things battering the UK economy, right in the middle of a news and data deluge on how Brexit is battering the UK economy. And not a single journalist in the room thought it was worthy of challenge. And it's not the first time the Chancellor has sought to take the public for fools by deliberately avoiding Brexit when listing things which have battered the UK economy.
You talk about living standards. What has actually happened since 2010? They've gone up in real terms by about £1,700 for the average family. But obviously when you have a pandemic and an energy crisis, they're going to take a hit. What wins elections, because the British public are very smart, is if they can see a government has taken difficult decisions to sort out problems. And they know that we've had a pandemic, we've had an energy crisis.
Now hang on to your seats for his next bit.
To point out, as the Labour Party do, that living standards have fallen this Parliament without mentioning the pandemic or the energy crisis is taking everyone for fools.
By almost every economic and financial measure, the hard Brexit, which has been entirely self-inflicted on the UK economy by this insane government, has been disastrous for the UK. And the Chancellor knows it. So why are journalists in the room allowing him to repeatedly admit Brexit from his list of things battering the economy? Now, of course, the pandemic and Russia's illegal war in Ukraine has had an impact on the UK's economy, as has rising energy prices. And yes, those were issues the government had no control over. But Bloomberg has recently calculated that Brexit is costing the UK £100 billion a year in lost output. That's roughly £40 billion less for the government to invest in the UK. Just think about that. It's £40 billion less to invest in our hospitals and public services, which we all rely on. It's one of the reasons for the Chancellor's anemic budget. Now hold on to your seats for this next bit.
The OBR says because of the decisions that I've taken, GDP will be 0.7% higher than it would otherwise have been.
But what the Chancellor failed to mention is the same report also said this. We continue to expect that Brexit will reduce the UK's potential GDP by 4% in the long run by lowering the trade intensity of the economy. That's right. Whilst the Chancellor ran jubilantly from one UK news show to another, telling viewers completely unchallenged this.
The OBR says because of the decisions that I've taken, GDP will be 0.7% higher than it would otherwise have been.
The OBR, that's the Office for Budget Responsibility, say in the same report that the hard Brexit, championed by the Prime Minister, will reduce the UK's potential GDP by 4% in the long run by lowering the trade intensity of the economy. The OBR's analysis chimes with that of the Bank of England by showing that a long-term squeeze on the country's economic potential from Brexit is playing out as they had feared. And it's the Chancellor who continues to take the public for fools by deliberately omitting all this from the list of things battering the UK economy. And journalists are largely letting him just get away with it.
We are prepared to do the hard work to bring taxes back down because we know that doing so will lead to more growth for the economy, more prosperity for British families. And that's why we've taken 4p off employees' national insurance, saving the average person in work £900 this year.
Is he seriously still pulling this one? As Full Fact point out, the Institute for Fiscal Studies says once the impact of all tax changes is factored in, the average worker will save just £340 in 2024-25, and those earning less than £26,000 will actually be worse off. Heaven help us.